Hello everyone, this is going to be a short tutorial on how to use LaTeX for um, making quizzes, Moodle quizzes, which can be then used on our QM Plus uh, platform. Now, your starting point for this tutorial should be the SPA Teaching and Learning Development page on QM Plus, which you all should have access to. If you go down to the Technology and Training tab, you will have there's quite a bit of information there, and this will go on increasing over the summer, but the one I want you to look at is the QM Plus Quizzes How To Guide. This takes you to a little wiki, and we are now going to look at just the LaTeX interface to Moodle. Now, if you are interested in using Word, there is a tutorial, very nice one, created by somebody else on how to use Word, so I will not be spending my time telling you about Word. But some of the aspects of the LaTeX interface tutorials, in fact this one, might be useful to you, so watch on even if you are a Word user. So we get on to the LaTeX interface to Moodle, and right now there is no video here. This one I'm making will be present here shortly. There are, however, two documents: the LaTeX interface to Moodle, download it please, and how to upload the quizzes onto QM Plus. This is another PDF file which has been taken from the e-learning institute. Please download this and have it at hand. We'll come to the LaTeX and macros part later and the warnings part later. Okay, so let's assume you've got these two PDF files. One is the Moodle package, generating Moodle quizzes by LaTeX. You should have the Moodle interface installed on your LaTeX installation on a Mac or Linux system. If you do not, let me know and I will see if I can help you put it on. If you use Overleaf, it should also be a part of Overleaf, but frankly I haven't used Overleaf for this particular purpose, so I'm not sure what happens there. The second document is the document from the e-learning institute, which is a nice systematic guide as to how you upload these the XML files which will result from our kind of exercise onto QM Plus as a quiz. Now the uploading, the exporting and importing documentation applies to both LaTeX and Word. So read it even if you're a Word user. Right. Now before getting on, you do have to read this documentation for the Moodle package to LaTeX. You have to read it. It's not long, and there are nice examples here provided. I would just start with one of these examples and see how it works. But without this, you're in trouble. Yeah. There are a few caveats which I will show you what they are here. Now I have already spent some time generating a quiz for my MT3 module, so I'm going to take you through some of the parts of this quiz. The first is it's a standard document article. This follows exactly from the tutorial, the documentation. You use package Moodle. Now I have got my macros in this particular file, and I'm importing it as a package. I will tell you a little bit more on this soon because it's quite important. Begin document and begin quiz, name of the quiz, and then you have your various questions. Now the questions I'm using here are the multi kind, which is the multiple choice, and I'm using a multiple choice which has multiple correct answers, and that's what this multiple is for. This is the number of points allocated because there are 3 possible correct answers. A short name for this, it's not a very informative name, but it's okay. Then you have the question. Which of the following statements is or are axioms for a vector space? I have got a short hint here as to go back to the lecture or read Riley Hobson Benn section 1.8 before you actually began this, which is not bad. We do want students to read things. Then we have the 3 correct answers indicated by a star. The interface will correctly take the number of points divided by 3 and allocate 1/3 of the points to each of the correct parts. Or you could specify the number of points for each part individually. That's described in the LaTeX documentation to Moodle. Now what I have done is to provide feedback strings as to the wrong answers. So if somebody has selected the wrong answer, it's nice to get feedback, and it's quite simple. It's just a square bracket. Feedback is equal to, in curly braces, the feedback string, closed by a curly brace and a square bracket. So that's one set of questions, one question. Then the other kind of question I have used is the cloze. It's basically the cloze environment, that's this one here, is it encapsulates a set of questions which are related to each other. So for example, here I want to ask students, does a set of integers, positive and negative including 0, form a vector space? Now a yes/no answer is kind of not very much useful, so it doesn't in this case. But why doesn't it? So this is because, and here's where the second part in a multiple choice form comes in handy. The vertical forces the interface to provide this list of choices as a bullet pointed list, which you then have to select. If you don't specify vertical, or in fact you could have a horizontal option too, then students will be given a drop down menu. Now the drop down menu works perfectly fine, except that I found that there's no feedback possible with a drop down menu. So if I wanted to provide feedback, then I need the vertical arrangement. I haven't tried the horizontal yet. Let me just show you how this works with one example where I haven't got feedback. So this is an example of it's a similar kind of question. Does a set of non-singular 2x2 matrices form a vector space? And the answer is no, and this is because, well, there's one correct answer. The 0 element is not part of the set. But it's good to have feedback here, so rather than just have these wrong answers, I'm going to put in a bit of feedback. There we are, that's the first one. Second one. Third one. I had the feedback already kind of typed in, and I just put it in there. So once you've got everything in, you've got your feedback in, you've got the points kind of adjusted the way you wanted them to be, save the file. Now comes a problem. Let's go back to this file. I should have shown you this problem. In the first question of this file, I'm using macros, which I have defined. Now, why have I used macros? Because I use these macros in my slides and lecture notes and other places, and I've kept the same kind of macros. Unfortunately, the LaTeX interface to Moodle will simply take these macros as they are and use them in the XML file it's going to create. Now, that's fine, but then Moodle will not know what these macros are, because Moodle doesn't use macros. So there is, luckily, I mean, you can see that this is an example for a student project. You have a Python code, read the LaTeX file, read your macro file, and just insert the full definitions in here, and someone has done it. And there's a code called dmacro. I have provided the link to this code in here. So in LaTeX and macros, there is a place where you can download the dmacro package. It works with both Python 2 and Python 3, so you do need to use Python. I have got it over here, and you run the dmacro package on your LaTeX file. And if it's done correctly, it will say this is kind of output for a good dmacro run. It will create a file called, I'm going to show to you here, it's called vector space quiz1, that's the name of my tex file, -clean.tex. So this is the clean indicates that this is a file which has been processed by this dmacro package. So let's have a look at it. And if you look at it here, all of those macros, the space and the VCT, have been replaced by standard tex commands in green, and you can see them all highlighted in green. So now we are demacroed, and this should work. One more caveat. I tend to use in my macros things like ensure math and x space. Now this will not work with this dmacro command. You have to make your macros as simple as possible, for example. And one more thing, your macros have to be in a file which is something-private.sty. It will not accept any other name. So the first part, it could be anything you want, then it has to be terminated by -private.sty. just to show you what's in mine. It's just a simple set of macros for vectors and vector spaces. All right, that's it in here. So once you've got your cleaned up tex file, then it's your LaTeX command, LaTeX mk minus pdf vector space. Now I'm not using the original file, I want the cleaned up one, .tex. That generates, it's going to generate a couple of things. One of them is a Moodle file, which is here. So it's vector space quiz1 clean -moodle.xml. That's the one we're going to be using. And just to see what the actual quiz looks like, you even have a PDF. So let's have a look at that PDF. It's here. All right, so this is the tech quiz. This is my, and you can see my title definitions is not a very good one, but I should change it later. You have the correct answers with the weighting. You have the wrong answers with the 0 marks. You have the yes no question, the correct one. So this is a fantastic way of having a nice record of your quiz, there for you to see. Alright, so now we've got the XML file. Now I'm not going to look at the XML file. We're just going to go on to QM+ now and upload it into my MD3 module, which is here. I've got editing on. And the very first thing I do is go down to, this is the settings block, and I'm after the question bank. So on the question bank you have questions, categories, import, export. So let's go to question bank. The first thing is categories. Now here's the categories. You are going to be uploading, so why categories first? You're going to be uploading quizzes throughout the module, and if you're using quizzes for each topic, there's going to be quite a number of them. It's good to make categories to classify them. Now, so here I want to put this on this module, and I want to give it a name. Now I have already given it a name, so it could be vector spaces, a bit of description, and then you can add the category. Now I've already done this because I have a category called vector spaces, definitions and examples, so I'm going to use that one as it is. Alright, then we go, once you have a category defined, so cancel, sorry, I do want to leave. We go to the import section, and here's where I'm going to talk you through what's going to happen. So you have a file format, and the format is XML, Moodle XML, so that's down here. Then we go to the general section, which is always collapsed, unfortunately. And here's where you need to select your category. Vector spaces, definitions and examples. Alright. The rest of it is fine. Then we choose our file. Choose file from my laptop, and it's the XML file, and it's clean Moodle XML. Upload. Import. Now if the import goes correctly, we should see the 4 questions appearing here, and that's correct, so continue. And here we have now our question bank. The 4 questions are here. Let's test drive one of these and show you what it looks like. Preview. Does the set of complex numbers form a vector space? Well, I don't know, so maybe not. No, this is because the space is not closed on the multiplication by a scalar. Let's have a look at what happens. And it says no. Oh, there we are. So I didn't know this. So okay, there was a bit of feedback here, but it seems to have gone, so I'm going to close the preview. Now that wasn't the vertical drop down. Sorry, I had, for that particular question, I had not selected the vertical option to give me bullet points for my possible answers, but for this one, I did. So let's have a look at. You can see the format here. So the first part of the question is a yes, no again. I'm just going to choose something at random. The space is not closed. No. Submit and finish. And QM Plus says no, my answer is wrong, and this is the wrong answer. It is closed under addition, but it's a set closed under multiplication by a scalar. So I've got my feedback here in a nice way, and this is the kind of way we probably need to have our feedback provided. Now once you've got your questions in the question bank, it becomes easy to upload them into a quiz. This is not yet a quiz, but that is another question, another problem altogether. So I will talk about that in a subsequent video. And this is where we end this one. Thanks for watching. So just to remind you, the basic information for using LaTeX is on the teaching and learning development page under technology and training, and you go to the QM Plus quizzes wiki, and it's down here. Now this video, which I've just been recording, will be put up here too, so you can have a look at it and watch it again if needed. Thanks again, and all the best.